Hello Mechaniacs, Jeff Wooten here. Today I'd like to talk to you about the problem of pain. This is an important topic because pain management is one of those things that lies at the foundation of what we at the Body Mechanic work with. It's what we stand for. It's what we do. So this video should be very interesting. So here's a good quote to start things off. Pain is not the same as suffering. Left to itself, the body discharges pain spontaneously, letting go of it the moment that the underlying cause is healed. Suffering is pain that we hold on to. It comes from the body's mysterious instinct to believe that pain is good, or that it cannot be escaped, or that the person deserves it. Deepak Chopra. So let me say that pain comes in two broad categories, in my estimation. And it is supremely important to understand the difference between the two. So the first kind of pain is the kind of pain that you experience when you're out walking, for example, and you step on a nail. Now, this is the kind of pain you definitely should not try to push through. You would only be causing more damage if you try to continue walking because the nail just keeps going further and further into your foot, right? Now, I submit to you that this kind of pain is actually quite rare. Now, the second kind of pain, or rather the other kind of pain, is the kind of pain that you absolutely should push through, no matter how painful. I'll say that again. No matter how painful. This is because you need to help your body to move through the inflammatory process, all of the stages, and I'll talk about this more in another video, but you need to move through the inflammatory process, and you also need to help your body to flush away the waste. Now, there are two great ways of doing this. One, of course, is movement, flexing your muscles, stretching your muscles. The other is deep massage therapy. Your goal when you have pain, right? You have an injury, some kind of pain. Your first goal is to determine what type of pain is it? Which of the two types? Did you step on a nail? Is it that kind of pain? Or is it the other kind of pain, the larger category of pain? If you determine it is the second category of pain, then you absolutely must set your mind to push through that pain. That's the key. That's the first step. Okay, so there are two types of pain. We've established this. The second one, which is the I've just stepped on a nail type of pain, is the most common pain. So I'm betting that wherever your pain is, whatever it is, your neck, your lower back, your shoulders, your hamstrings, your hips, your calves, your knees, wherever, I'm betting that your pain falls into category number 2. And this is great news because it means that complete healing is within your control. And that's the reason for today's video. I am hoping to convince you that if you can just shift your paradigm of pain, if you could just view pain differently, you will become convinced, as I have, that not only is pain not a bad thing, but pain, because you're going through pain, you have the potential, the opportunity to become far stronger mentally as well as physically than you otherwise could have been had you not been injured in the first place. Get that? You could be stronger because of the pain, mentally and physically, both, than you otherwise could have been had it not been for your injury. Don't believe me? Well, this concept is often one of the first ones that I teach my new clients that come to me in pain. This is such a big key, and I'm almost universally met with incredulity. And I'm betting that you are also incredulous right now. But, wait, hang on. I'm going to tell you the same thing that I tell each of my brand new clients. Trust me now, and you will believe me later. Here's the crux of my thesis. Pain is a perception produced in your brain. Moreover, your brain does not recognize pain signals coming from your body. Indeed, you can feel incredible pain without having any damage whatsoever to your body. At the same time, you can feel no pain when there is severe damage to your body. I can recall being in massage therapy sessions, working on clients many times, and I'll discover a large, deep bruise on the thigh, for example, and I'll say, "Oh my goodness, you have a large bruise on your thigh. How did that happen?" And she'll say something to the effect of, "Really? I didn't know it was there." Well, I'm pretty clumsy. I bump into things all the time. I probably just ran into the corner of the countertop or something like that. And it's like a major bruise, and clearly it wasn't felt at the time that it happened, which is pretty interesting. It also reminds me of many times being on the football field. One time in particular, in a huddle, where one guy's finger was like pointing in this direction. It was clearly dislocated, broken, and someone in the huddle said, "Dude, your finger," right? And the guy's like, yeah, that's gonna hurt tomorrow." And that's something that athletes and coaches alike, they're very familiar with that phrase. That's gonna hurt tomorrow. The reason athletes say this is because something else is more important at the time. That something else is the game. You have to win. You've got to keep going. So whatever injury you have to your body, that injury is not as important. And because it isn't as important, it is not nearly as painful as it would be, say, if you were just at home watching TV and you suddenly broke your finger. How would it feel then? And we have lots of examples of a person feeling pain when there's no apparent reason for the pain. On a personal example, I can think of an example one time when I was really in deep sleep in bed, and suddenly a snake just bites me in my thigh. Oh man, it was so painful. And I jumped out of bed, and the snake still had its fangs in my thigh. It was hanging off my leg and wiggling around in the air when I jumped out of the bed. And I jumped out quickly. And so, as the snake was still hanging onto my thigh, I started smacking at my thigh to knock the snake off. Alas, only to discover there was no snake. But the pain was very real. I felt that pain. I could feel the snake against my leg. It was pretty bad. Apparently, what happened was I was reading a book, a hardcover book, and I guess I left it in my bed. And I rolled over at some point onto that book. Yeah. Probably this is a good reason to not work when you're in bed. But my point is this. I felt a searing pain where that snake had bitten me. Yet, upon examination, there wasn't even a single scratch. Not a scratch. According to Dr. Eddie O'Connor, clinical sports psychologist, we have no objective way of measuring pain. We can't take a picture of it, and it doesn't show up in any blood test. We can point to a possible cause of the pain, but the pain itself is a subjective experience. As Dr. O'Connor says, pain is a social experience. A physiological signal goes from the shin, for example, up to the brain, where it mixes with your thoughts, emotions, and interpretations of the social context. And then you have a pain perception. The pain is not in the shin. It is processed in the brain, telling you that the pain is in the shin. All of this is to say that pain is a perception that takes place in your brain and not in your body. So many healthcare professionals simply don't understand this. They treat conditions based on a paradigm, an outdated paradigm, that pain is produced in the body. So pain is a perception, just like vision is a perception. Okay, now allow me to elucidate. You probably believe that vision is a straightforward process where you see exactly what enters your eyes. Well, that's not true. When the light rays enter your eyes, the data from the light rays makes its way to your visual cortex at the back of your head. And then your brain, based upon your preconceived notions, your emotional state of mind, and myriad other things, your brain then determines, it perceives what it determines to be an accurate representation of the external world. And oftentimes, this isn't true. It just isn't true. What your brain perceives is not what you actually see. And optical illusions work for this very reason. Take a look at this image. Now, if you're like most people, you see that the top panel is physically darker than the bottom one. However, if you take a moment, you can use your index finger, anything you want, just cover up the bright area in the middle. When you do this, you can plainly see that the two panels are exactly the same shade of gray. Now, with the perception of pain, the input comes to the brain from the body from special nerve receptors called nociceptors. Now, in my experience, many very knowledgeable healthcare professionals mistakenly call nociceptors pain receptors. This simply isn't true. Nociceptors merely send information to your brain. If a condition has been met or if a threshold has been exceeded. For example, there are chemicals which are inside your cell membrane and inside the cells themselves, which should remain in the cells. Now, when a cell has been damaged, been torn open via, say, a cut, if you've been cut or punctured, cells are damaged. When the cells are damaged, chemicals spill out. It is at this point that nociceptors are then stimulated, the ones which detect chemical, are stimulated, and they send the signal up to the brain. Now, again, this is not a pain signal. This is a signal that says, hey brain, chemicals have been spilled out of a cell, meaning a cell is probably damaged. So just want to let you know this, chemicals have been spilled. Now, your brain may take this information and then it translates into pain. Other nociceptors are stimulated when a certain temperature has been exceeded. For example, if you touch a hot stove, a certain temperature, the temperature is higher than you believe should be necessary. In other words, there's a potential for damage. So we have temperature-specific nociceptors. Other nociceptors are stimulated when a certain amount of pressure is exceeded. So if pressure goes above a certain amount of, say, PSI, the nociceptors which detect pressure are stimulated and they send a signal to your brain. In each case, your brain has to make the decision, should we feel pain and to what degree? Take, for example, what happens when you step on a scale. Now, let's say you expect that your weight should be no more than 120 pounds. Okay, most of my clients are females, and so I use 120 pounds because, okay, you get the picture. But let's say the scale reads 135 pounds. Now, your brain reads that scale readout as painful in the form of anxiety, right? Now, here's the critical question. Is the scale sending a pain signal to your eyes, to your brain via your eyes? No. No, your brain is just the scale is just sending a signal. It's sending a readout. It's just telling you how much you weigh. And you happen to weigh 135 pounds. Your brain takes that information and it converts it, or it determines that it should be, the state of your mind should be pain because you're at 135 pounds. You become highly anxious. But the information from the scale essentially is just information. Okay, so let's say that your scale behaves like a nociceptor, which is essentially an on-off type scenario. So your psyche is set, or rather preset, for 120 pounds. Now, if you step on the scale and you only weigh 115 pounds, nothing shows up. If you step on the scale and you weigh 119 pounds, nothing shows up. If you step on the scale and you weigh 121 pounds, a signal happens. In other words, 121 shows up on the scale. The information enters your brain, enters your brain via your eyes. Now your brain has to do something with that information. Maybe it's only slightly anxious. Let's say the scale shows 145 pounds. Oh my goodness, major pain, right? How might I treat someone whose nociceptor scale has them in chronic pain because it's constantly showing something over 120 pounds? Okay, the first thing I need to do is to reprogram this person's brain to no longer interpret the data as pain. In other words, maybe you're at 121, maybe you're at 135, maybe 140. It doesn't matter. You see the information, rather your brain receives the information, and you no longer interpret it as suffering. That's the first step. Now, commensurate with this, the idea is to treat via massage and exercise so that the body can then heal itself. But interpreting the data as not being painful is an important part of healing. The takeaway from this video is simply this: pain is a subjective experience based upon your personal biases, your emotional state, and lots of other factors. The cool thing is, these factors are all under our control. That's pretty cool. So how do we get this control? How do we control our thoughts, our negative thinking, our biases? How do we control these things? Well, a proven way to do this is with meditative breath work. This is the kind of thing that we do every day. We have a class that meets every day, our daily prehab therapy class. It's a wonderful class which I lead, and there's a link in the description below. If you click on that link, it'll take you to a page that allows you to sign up for a 30-day free trial. Really cool. I highly encourage you to give it a try. Investing in your health on a daily basis can't be beat. This is how you make yourself resilient. This is how you learn to control pain, to control anxiety. Such cool stuff. If you enjoyed this video and feel that it has served you in a good way, then please do hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And do forward this video to your friends. Everyone should be aware of this information. And there'll be a link to my full audio on good versus bad pain in the description below. It's a great audio, and I hope you enjoy that as well. As always, thank you very much for all of your support. Kung Fu salute. Right fist, left palm. Bring them together and bow. Thank you very much.